Hello, everyone. This week we're doing something entirely new on this podcast. First, we're covering a concert.
But what about all those Final Fantasy...
And we're talking about Arknights.
We do that on every episode.
So let's talk about Arknights Ambience Synesthesia 2022. Welcome to Music Arcade. Hello, everyone. I'm Galen, the SoundGuy Firestone.
I'm Ranakel, president of the Big Bird Fan Club.
And I'm Eddie, and I'm unsure whether it's Raining Man or something else.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah indeed. So yes, as Eddie joked, it is very rainy where he is right now, so we're gonna have to work around that, and I apologize for the noise.
Fun fact, it started 5 minutes before we started recording.
The timing was great.
To give you an idea, right now I'm having the Twitch feed of Galen in silent as well, and one of the recommended channels is streaming a game named Rain World.
I think that's just a stream of my city.
That's good. I love that. Anyway, so this is a Arknights concert. I'm very happy they did this. This is the second Arknights concert. They did the original Ambience Synesthesia back in 2020, I think. Maybe 2021, but 2022, last year, they did a second concert, and that one just took forever to get to YouTube. Like, it just wasn't happening. No one wanted to do it. It was stuck in Chinese, Bilibili? Weibo?
Yep.
One of those. And it was just languishing over there, and no one, would officially release it until very recently. So, I wanted to kind of...
It released in 2023.
Yeah.
There's a reason we're talking about an event with 2022 in the name in February of 2023.
Yes, and that reason is that it finally hit YouTube, and I'm finally able to be like, hey, we haven't done a concert in a while, and here's a pretty interesting one, and...
And also we had a bit of a delay on the end of January.
We did. So, I've been wanting to talk about this for a while now. It's no secret that I'm a big Arknights player, big Arknights fan. I love the music, and the fact
and
that...
a big concert fan.
And a big concert fan. And the
I
fact
couldn't
that...
tell.
Yeah, thanks. The fact that this concert is something we could talk about, and it is so ridiculously diverse...
Yes.
Like, we are running the gamut of every genre you can think of. I'm not even joking when I say that.
At least 3 different mini-concerts meshed into one.
At least. I would argue more like 5, but yeah, there's a lot going on here.
And before we even talk about the music, one of the things that kind of hit me, and that makes sense given the name of the concert, is the sense of aesthetics. Like... The costumes and ambience are very well researched and very intentional for every single song.
Yeah, there was a visual component, and we will be talking about that to some degree. I'm not going to talk about it at length because this is a soundtrack about music, but it's going to come up. Soundtrack about music, a podcast about music.
Yes.
I know what I'm talking about, I swear.
Words are hard.
Yeah, words are hard. But... Yeah, no, there was definitely a massive visual component, and there were 4 songs that, as far as I can tell, are original to the concert. Those are the ones introducing each section. So that's a whole other can of worms. Again, this concert, we have a whole bunch of different modes. We have symphonic orchestra, we have musical theater, we have alternative rock, we have hip-hop, we have pop, we have electronic, we have it's all over the place. We have a couple of folk tracks. And we start with just so much Disney.
Oh,
I'm
good.
glad I'm not the only one who thought that.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely a Disney song.
Oh, yeah, no, it's...
Yeah.
Like, I was listening to that, and I was just thinking of the Little Mermaid singing Part of Your World.
Yeah, it's very much that. Yeah, and this was... A few of these costumes that we see in the video actually did make it into skins of the game. These were not some of them, and I actually wrote in my notes, cute costumes, it'd be nice if they were skins. Because,
sorry, you have frustration about a lack of skins. Let me tell you about Genshin Bleeping Impact.
Fair enough.
That has a grand total of 8 skins in the game, 4 of them free, for a game that's over 2 years old by now.
Wow. That's a lot. I'm pretty sure
I like to know the
Arknights had
difference
8
between,
skins by month 2.
Yeah!
I'd like to know the difference between Rana and myself, because Rana says the word bleep. I just force Galen to bleep me later.
I like to think of that as a optional bleeping.
Fair enough. Anyway, yeah, no, just from a game player's perspective, like Leonhard as a stage magician, that was cute. Little Boe Jafala, really adorable. Amiya as the pretty princess with a black crown. That's just hilarious if you know the story. I'm not going to get into that, but I was like, good on the art designers for that one. The song itself sucks balls.
It is very deliberate in what it's trying to do.
It is very deliberate. And in terms of what it's trying to do, I think they succeed. I just hate the style of music with a passion.
Of course.
Yeah, they did it very well. It's just a shame that I hate what they did.
Mission
even as a
successfully failed.
Yeah, even as a kid, I was one of those kids who just enjoyed the villain songs, and that was it for Disney movies.
I was already embarrassed of Disney musicals by the time I was like 8 years old, so I'm just like, I'm almost 40. I don't got the patience for this at all.
I mean, that was me as well, but I thought of the villain songs as sounding cool at least. The princesses songs, I could pass.
Yeah, I mean, it sets the tone for this Dreamland segment, which is by far and away the most musical theater of them. Of the 4 segments. Okay. I mean, I'm trying to take myself out of it and talk about the actual composition of it, and it's fine, I guess. I just personally have just a severe, just subjective dislike of this that it's hard for me to analyze it objectively, and I am trying.
My internet just had a little bit of a hiccup.
Fun.
I was about to joke that Galen's dislike for Disney princess themes was enough to make your internet go down.
Apparently, my internet is a Disney fan. I should change carrier.
I, as someone who has a long-standing grudge against Disney, would appreciate such.
Please leave that in as a blooper at the end of the episode.
I might.
That remark was too funny.
I might.
Going back.
All right. After that, we get into the first intermission, and I'm pretty sure I'm the only one qualified to talk about these. My note is exactly one line. Smug Neon is a mood. Okay, so Neon was that red and white dragon girl. And in story, she is a director of some really awful B-movies.
That's the film aesthetics we had up to this point, and a bit further on.
Correct. And in fact, they released a bonus costume for her in full-on director mode, and I'm like, please give that as a skin. Stop making these not skins. But after we get out of the intermission, we go on to Shadowstorm, and now, my first line is, now we're talking. This is a Chapter 9 battle theme, and it is really well done.
And ironically, that's my first line as well. Literally word for word.
Now we're talking?
Now we're talking.
Nice. No, this was a really great version of this song. I really like the percussion on it, which I think was partly playback, because I didn't see a number of those instruments, so there was a number of extra percussion sounds that did not seem to be represented by what few shots we got of the orchestra. I will say that is something about the concert that I didn't like, is that very often they wouldn't shoot the musicians, and I feel like there's some interesting stuff there. I did say they were close miking one of the drums with an SM57. Like, okay, that's a good technique, but that's about all I could get out of that, unfortunately.
Yeah, as far as the song goes, it's got tension, it's got action in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of Metal Gearish, especially in, like you said, the drums and the background parts in general.
Yeah. I definitely agree that it's on the Metal Gear side, and that does kind of match the story, as it is kind of. It's not exactly a sneaking thing, but the good guys are vastly outnumbered on this one.
Ooh.
So there is a sense of don't get caught by the main force.
That kind of explains the whole huge battle vibes I got from it.
Well,
It felt like someone was outnumbered.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
It's a pretty enjoyable battle track. Which sometimes battle music in games can be so situational you don't really want to listen to it outside of the context. But this one was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you actually called that it feels like you're outnumbered. That tells me that even outside of the context of the story, that the composer really got that one right.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I feel like we're going to get that a lot, because a lot of the songs are very expressive in what kind of atmosphere we're trying to convey. It is not a neutral concert in any way.
No.
Part of me wants to say that it reminds me of the Battle of Helm's Deep, but that might just be because it was raining there and it's raining here, so who knows.
I'm not sure I get Helm's Deep off of it. It feels too modern, even if it is symphonic orchestral.
Yeah, I think the drums in particular make it sound far more modern than what you'd see in a fantasy movie from Western directors.
Yeah, it's a very different animal. And if we go over the weapon list of the main characters involved, you do have one girl with a sword, but then you also have another older lady with a big old handgun. You have Horn, who's a walking artillery platform, and Bagpipe, who has a gun lance. Bagpipe got a lot of time on this first section. If you saw the I don't know how to describe her, but she's the redhead with the kilt and the big honking spear. If you guys remember her.
Bagpipe, yeah.
Yeah.
Big honking spear is a mood.
Big honking spear is a mood. They didn't really show
I played Lance in the latest Monster Hunter, so... Didn't play Gun Lance, though.
Oh, okay. Well, Bagpipes is actually a gun lance. It has the rockets in it, so it will actually do that. But they really liked her in the artwork for this opening section, and that does make sense. I thought this was probably one of the standouts of the concert. I was kind of expecting them to continue down this path, but they really didn't. The next song up is Immutable, and we start getting into the promotional singles. We've just left the video game entirely, and now we're off to the promotional singles. This is, I believe the phrasing is Image Song, about one of the main characters, in this case, Calcit.
I think that only really makes sense within the frame of that movie theme, because that is the filming tone going down to a T, with some modern James Bond opening vibes, as far as I'm concerned.
Which makes sense, because she's kind of, this particular character this song is about is an immortal spy master, so...
Well, like I said, very expressive.
Very expressive. I did like this one, but I don't really have much to say about it. It's got a nice dark atmosphere, a strong melody, but it doesn't really stick in my mind all that well. I'm struggling to remember it even now.
Yeah, I kind of have the same issue. I noted down that I enjoyed the vocals.
Yeah.
This was one of... There were some tracks I had some issues with the vocals. This definitely wasn't one of those. But I also have a bit of a hard time remembering the details.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more about the vibes, really.
Yeah. And I feel like this one worked for what it was trying to do. It wasn't my favorite or anything, but yeah, sure, this was fine.
And then we get Whiplash.
Oh god, now we're on to Awaken, and I'm just like, this one was one of the only songs that outright made me angry. I will let you guys give your takes first, but then I'm coming in hot.
Then I have noted, excuse me while I recover from the whiplash of the song that starts out real strong, like, whew, violins fire, the choir contribute to the sea adventure tone, and it's kinda Disney insert song-like at times. Again, back to that qualifier.
Yeah.
But then you also get some operatic vocalizing like nobody's business, and who decided to merge two songs together like that?
I mean, there's a reason for it, because the character that this is about had magically induced DID.
Did you what now?
Dissociative identity disorder.
I see.
So literally there's kind of two personalities, though unlike the
Wow.
other character where this is an actual thing, this one was caused by a whole other thing happening, and this event was her finally, like, becoming herself again. This one is about Spectre the Unchained. Original Spectre is a crazy nun and a classic Lovecraftian madwoman. Actual Spectre, the one we finally meet over the course of this event, that this song is kind of from, it's a promotional single for the event, somehow manages to become more interesting once her mystery is solved. And I still don't know how they managed to pull that one off.
Cool.
Yeah. I actually really I didn't care much for regular Spectre, but Spectre the Unchained quickly became one of my favorite characters, just narratively.
Yeah, like, the simple fact that you could easily describe the first aspect but not the second seems to imply that there's more going on there.
There's a lot going on there, but that gets into the whole Abyssal Hunter thing, and that's literally 4 events worth of story right now. There's a lot of story there.
This game does
And
feel
we
like it
don't
has
want to
way
record
more
another 3-hour podcast in a row.
Correct. So I will just say that, yes, there's some interesting things. Spectre the Unchained is awesome. This song, however, is ball sacks. First, I kind of, like, so you remember several episodes ago when this event was going on, I posted a song, I believe it was called Desdever, which was the final boss of that, which was the sea shanty, mixed with EDM.
No.
Mm-hmm.
How cool would that have
That
been?
rings a bell.
How cool would that
Very
have been to
cool.
have this in there? Instead, we get a weirdo, like really weirdo image song about Spectre the Unchained, our second one in a row, very musical theater, sung by a weak soprano who, in her, as you say, vocalizing like nobody's business, really nobody's business because no one actually checked her pitch. She was, like, flat out off key a couple points. Like, not even pitchy, just flat out wrong.
That explains why it felt off
Yeah.
for me at times.
Like, I am not familiar with this song going into it, and even I'm like, these keys are incorrect. I can tell just by the harmonization going on that these keys are not correct. You are not hitting your notes.
Honestly, kind of sounds, based on what you said about the character it's about. It sounds like a weird song to be that character's quote-unquote theme. It sounds too clean, let's say. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
seem to represent that Lovecraftian aspect you mentioned.
Yeah, like the mashup aspect I mentioned doesn't feel deliberate.
The only thing Lovecraftian was the fact that they had a 3D render of the ocean in the background during the concert.
Yeah.
But it's a forgettable song again. Like, at this point in the concert, I was a bit worried because you always share
Yes.
songs from Arknights with us, and they are always really cool. But then we got to this point and we had 2 forgettable songs in a row, and I was like, what?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, the beginning was kinda worrying, with the second song being the best of the lot.
I fully agree, though there is one other in this section that I really do like. But yeah, this one just hit us with a bunch of forgettable musical theater, and I'm just like, what is happening here? And I literally posted, because my time and my schedule has been just an absolute mess lately. I actually posted in the Discord, I apparently stopped listening last weekend before the good part.
Yeah.
And we are not in the good part right now.
And
Awaken...
I could tell when the good part started.
Yeah. So yeah, Awaken was, I would say, my least favorite song of the entire concert. Like, there's one other that made me kind of equally angry, but for completely different reasons.
Then let's move on to the next one.
Towards Her Light, which is Salish's theme song. Salish? I'm not good with Gaelic. Which is
Nobody
Janie
is good with
Willows.
Gaelic. People are just pretending.
That... Fair. Which is Jane Willows. I'm just going to use her real name, but not her code name for once. Jane Willows' theme song. More musical theater. I did like the tavern guitar on this one. I didn't really like the tone.
Tavern was a word I used.
Yeah, tavern is understandably.
I noted down that the instrumentation was sort of had a carefree folk vibe, which on occasion almost reminded me of bluegrass.
Bluegrass?
It wasn't exactly bluegrass, because it clearly has more Chinese folk inspirations than you would see in bluegrass. But I think it was more like how the violin, not necessarily violins, but the strings in general were played, kind of reminded me of specifically one album by Yo-Yo Ma and friends.
Interesting.
Called the Gold Rodeo Sessions, which is basically Yo-Yo Ma, to those unfamiliar, is a huge cellist, probably the most famous cellist in the world, at least most famous cellist soloist. And he and some friends got together and made a bluegrass-ish album with classical music inspirations, let's say. And it kind of reminded me of that a little bit. Not entirely. It isn't like... I wouldn't mistake this for bluegrass, but it gave me similar vibes with those songs. At some points, not all throughout.
I didn't catch any of that. That's actually a really cool take.
I guess that does get in line with the kind of comforting or relieving aspect of the tone of this song. But, like, we were in the previous song at sea, and that's the port town.
Okay, that's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, and I also noted that Arknights really does work a lot towards mythologizing some of its elements.
It does.
Does seem like it. Yeah,
like, it's clearly constructed. There's clearly a story behind that song, and I respect it.
There seems to be a story behind everything on this concert.
There is, and that's one of the reasons, like, I find myself a lot more emotionally attached to a lot of it. Again, there's only 2 songs that really didn't make any sense, but, and Awaken being one of them, but Towards Her Light is not one of them. That one does fit the character and fit the story very well.
Yeah.
I think the only thing in this song that I can't say I didn't enjoy, but it's not because it was bad, it's just I'm probably not the target audience, was having more poppy vocals to go along with those folky vibes. I thought the vocals didn't mesh very well with the instrumentation.
I did like the vocals on this one, though I thought her English was fairly dodgy.
We will talk about what I felt was dodgy English later.
Yeah, no, we'll have that. We'll definitely have that. Any more on Towards Her Light?
Nope.
Okay, moving on to Hometown Wind, and we're back to bagpipe. And the actual instrument as well as...
bagpipe being in the background.
Right, yeah, bagpipe and bagpipes theme. Like, that makes sense. It's a chipper song, which...
that checks out.
Yeah, it's a chipper song, which makes sense. One thing I said was, it sounds like I'm getting Sakuraba, which isn't actually impossible. It would be very funny. Because it sounds like almost a B-side from, like, Tales of Berseria or one of the Tales games, like Town Themes.
Oh, no, that's fair. I had another comparison point, but the vibe is similar. I felt more like this was... We've talked before about movie trailer music being somewhat similar from trailer to trailer. That's Korean MMORPG trailer music.
Okay, fair.
It's the kind of song that goes, look at the size of our areas, get old, chump.
I find it funny that each of us has had a different comparison point, because I also had one, but was neither of those. I got big Suikoden intro cutscene vibes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Though I also noted, is it any surprise that I enjoy this, considering big Suikoden intro vibes? Because, I am a Suikoden fanboy.
I won't say I dislike this one. I felt kind of ambivalent about it, but I like it better than the musical theater. Like that like 4 songs of musical theater in a row, I was getting tired of it at that point.
Like, this really works well as a palate cleanser.
Yes. And I think we kind of needed that palate cleanser, considering what comes next, but let's keep going about this one if we have more to add to it. The flutists seem to be having a lot of fun on this song.
Good, because it does need to reflect a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, it really felt like a continuation of the carefree vibe from the previous track.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're very similar characters, so they don't actually interact all that much. But, I mean, like, when I first got a look at her, I literally thought that Bagpipe and Salish were sisters. They're totally unrelated, but I'm like, they're similar enough in both look and vibe and area that it's like, when they do interact, they just almost instantly become friends, so it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, given their names, I'd assume one was more Irish and the other was more Scottish.
Okay, so Bagpipe situation, she comes from a squadron where all of her, like, where all of the code names are musical instruments.
I see.
So she just kind of lucked into that one. She isn't either. She's technically Northern English, if you want to get really technical about it.
I was gonna joke that is very Capcom of them, but Capcom names things after music genres and elements, not instruments.
Like Horn is Bagpipe's commander, and
I see.
There was a cello and a triangle as 2 of the more important NPCs who sadly didn't survive the chapter.
Triangle. I feel sorry for
I feel sorry for their code name, but they were actually a really cool character, and I'm sorry they didn't make it. I would have loved to have seen more of them.
What's her code name? Mustang. What's her code name? Humvee. What's her code name? You don't want to know.
And then after Hometown Win, we're back in the Mood Whiplash, but this time we have Under Tides, the theme song, the final boss song, in fact, to Under Tides.
Yeah, this one is there to remind us of what genre of game Arknights is, I feel.
Yeah.
That is a sci-fi tower defense music.
Which is funny, because this is actually when you're fighting Quasi-Cthulhu. And you're actually doing just straight fantasy at this point, with the exception of the weapons being used. Like, now we're just in Lovecraft land.
That explains the title and a bit of the vibe I got.
I
noted that this could have been your generic, quote, "This is a very dangerous and dark place," unquote, piece. But the way they actually used the instrumentation made it much more interesting than that description would make it sound.
Mm-hmm.
What I really love is what I almost don't hear, which is the siren voice in the background.
Yeah.
Like, they could have put it much higher, but it's like you're not sure it's actually there at times, and that really adds the flavor of it all, of a subtle threat rather than something more in your face.
So, what's funny is Sorry.
It's not even that clear a voice either, because usually when we hear composers do this stuff with a siren voice in the background, it tends to be sort of maybe a soprano singer just with reverb and stuff like that. This sounded a bit distorted. You weren't even sure there was a human voice at times.
I think in this case it was pre-recorded. What I was going to say is that the studio version, Rana's right on the money. It was actually much louder in the version you hear in game, and in fact, a clip of it is even used when you deploy the character we saw, which is Sky the Corrupting Heart.
I was going to ask because I knew I heard that soundbite in several of your streams.
Yeah, because I deploy this character a lot. She's fantastic.
Yeah,
she's the best buffer in the game, bar none.
Her only problem is that when she uses that ability and we have that song voice, that soundbite, the music goes down for like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's generally good music.
Yeah. But I think in this case they did this song very well. This was one of the first songs I was like actually like basically the first since Shadowstorm I was grooving to. But because I have kind of an emotional connection to this song, that one really kind of hit me a little harder. So,
yeah, and without much of an emotional connection beyond, oh hey, that's the sound bit from when Galen pushes the ability button.
Yep.
It's still very solid.
The bridge on this is so good live. Da 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 da. That part was so good live.
We got him. We got him, folks.
Oh, ha ha. I've sung on occasion, just not as much as Rana does.
It's more of a hum, really.
More of a hum.
I think no one sings as much on a podcast as Rana does.
I did remark that I feel like Eddie would like this one. Was I on the money on that?
You were. The only thing I felt weird about was, there was a bit near the end where the vocals felt sort of like a spoken bit almost. That felt a bit off to me. But in general, the song was pretty cool. It's a very minor gripe because they don't last long in the song to begin with.
That's fair. So after Under Tides, we get our second intermission, and we are face to face with a guy named Mr. Nothing, and this guy is one of my least favorite characters from the narrative, so I'm immediately just like, heck this dude.
Well, I have nothing to say on him.
Good. After that, we get into Jiang Hu. This is another one which I believe is original to this concert. Kind of introducing the art pack and the character redesigns for some reason, and very cool traditionally inspired, a traditional Chinese inspired song. There is some like electric, like I don't know what that specific kind of guitar is called, but that was definitely an electric build.
I noted down traditional instruments being used in more modern ways.
Yes.
Not to like.
Yeah.
Because that's my jam.
I just want to watch a martial arts movie training montage now.
Yeah. I guess I should point out that the animation of this features Dusk doing that, which is really surprising because she does not do anything vaguely resembling that in game. But she was in full wuxia mode, and I'm like, okay.
That's a shame.
Yeah, in game she's a caster. Like, she stands there and bombs. And she's not bad.
I cast Fist.
Incidentally, I think this is the first piece in the concert that actually has what I believe to be an erhu very front and center in the melody.
Yeah.
The erhu being a traditional Chinese instrument. And I love that instrument. I really need to look for more songs that use it, more traditional music. Because it has a very distinct and very pretty sound, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was very happy with this one. This one, now we're like, once we're past Under Tides, things start to pick up a little bit. And now that we're into Jiang Hu, it actually is very cool piece of music that I like quite a bit.
And it also works very well as a kind of preliminary to the song that comes next.
Right, Till the Wave Ends, which is the battle theme from Who Is Real, which is Dusk's event.
Before we get to that song, I just want to make a final note, because I want to comment that the piano harmonizing with the erhu during the Jiang Hu track, that sounded just awesome to me.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the highlights of the concert for me, to no one's surprise if you know me and my interest in music.
Not really surprised by that. I figure there's one other song later that you'd probably really like, but this one definitely works.
It has a piano. It has folk instruments. Who's gonna like this?
Right?
You know.
Okay. Till the Wave Ends, the battle theme from Who Is Real. Really like the flute again on this one. I do wish the percussion was mixed a bit higher. They had, like, several different, like, traditional drums, and you could barely hear them in the mix. Also, shout out to the shamisen solo. That's just wonderful. Just a really well-constructed piece.
Yeah, and it feels like it's very in the same area as the previous one, but without being samey.
Yes.
If that makes sense. And it's kind of broadening those horizons and upping the stakes. The previous one was more of a training montage. That's the one-man assault on the secret mountain fortress, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I will just read my notes for this one verbatim, because they're pretty short.
Please.
Quote, I should listen to more Chinese folk music. I love these instruments. End quote.
Fair.
Can you tell who was enjoying this part of the concert?
Just a bit. Just a bit.
Yeah. Since this is Music Arcade, shout out to the game Emperor Rise of the Middle Kingdom, by the way. That's the Node Sierra game, which has a lot of Chinese folk music in the soundtrack.
It's solid.
Yeah, again, this is unlike Undertale. This is a battle theme to an event I didn't enjoy that much. So this one kind of is mentally like, kind of reminds me of just sheer frustration, but at the same time, like this version of the song is actually very good. So I'm kind of softening to it quite a bit because this version is that good.
And detached from the event it came from.
You are. Whereas me, I'm like, you frickin' Ikaruga mechanics in this game, get out of here, you're so confusing. Okay, after that, we have Randomly, which is the same band from Jiang Hu, but this time plus a singer.
Yeah, and the tone here is very different.
The tone here is very different.
Before we talk about the song proper, I just want to note that when I first saw this song title in the track list for the concert, I just thought of Rana.
Ouch.
I'll take it.
Let's be honest, if Rana were a video game composer, he probably would title half his songs randomly.
At least I'm not Sawano. Or Okabe, for that matter.
Fair enough.
Some of the song titles.
Fair enough.
So really, I like to pride myself on being the lesser of other evils. But anyway, back to the song itself. A pretty chill, futuristic pop.
It is.
Kind of sounds like the sort of piece where you listen to it at the time and you go, okay, sure, it's alright. And then you realize it's stuck in your head for 2 days for no apparent reason.
Yeah, that happened to me with the last song this band does that we'll talk about later. This one didn't stick quite as hard as the other one, but this one... Okay, so out of the gate, I'm just going to say it, I don't like the singer's voice. I get what he's going for, but it just sounds just way too... In Chinese or in English, it just sounds way too bouncy.
It sounds
also,
like
this song is in and of itself very wacky, which, given the characters it seem to be portraying, is kind of out of place. Because these are not particularly wacky characters, even if one of them does have occasional wacky adventures. I don't know.
I honestly wasn't a fan of the singer either. So, yeah, I didn't like the singer either. He annoyed me more in another track that's coming up later.
Mm-hmm.
This one, not so much, but still, I still felt annoying. I think to me, it was like, his voice was too high-pitched for the style of singing he was going for.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a very airy kind of vocalization. It was almost falsetto. I'm just like,
like a falsetto being high-pitched, it's something that you go, yeah, that is a falsetto, how it's used nowadays. But the style of singing he was going for with a voice that high-pitched it got annoying fast.
Yeah.
I had a bit of a hard time at first trying to point out what this made me think of, and I think I landed on a pretty good realization, which is that it feels, especially with the treatment of the vocals, like an attempt to kind of recapture the kind of vocals and sound a Vocaloid program does, but with an actual human singer.
Huh. Interesting.
Not that I have listened to a lot of Vocaloid songs, but the ones that passed by my ears felt like they had this kind of intonations.
Interesting. Now, Eddie, you're kind of the folk guy. So this is the same band that did, again, Jiang Hu, so it's the same kind of Chinese folk instrumentation. Is this a singing style that's kind of common for that?
I honestly haven't heard many Chinese folk music with vocals, so I'm not sure, to be honest. I found much easier to find folk music with vocals in the West and in Africa.
Yeah.
In China, it feels like it's mostly instrumental, at least based on the things I have managed to find. I'm no expert here.
Fair enough.
What I can tell you is that while not folk, some Chinese opera has some very distinct vocals that are very disconcerting at first, to the point where in Genshin they had a character which is in an opera singer and as a result has two voice actors, one for her talking and one for her singing, which is again jarring at first but very distinct, but that is not the vibes this is sending me.
Fair enough.
I guess we just don't know what the hell they were doing then.
I don't know what the hell they were doing, other than being really weird.
At least the next track I know exactly what they were doing.
Oh, I know exactly what they were doing too, and I don't like it. Melting White about Penguin Logistics. Had the very cool 80s guitar, but the breathy vocals are just like, stop. God, I did not like these vocals at all. Oh, wait a second. I just got another stream alert. I guess I was offline? I don't see any dropped frames.
It's weird, it's weird.
Yeah,
And thank you for the confirmation on the Chinese opera.
I think you went down for like a second or two, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It started buffering for me, and then you were back.
Weird.
That was definitely a weird one.
Yep. Okay,
Maybe
sorry.
it was a problem on Twitch's end.
Entirely possible. Because I'm not seeing any interruption on the broadcast end. Okay, anyway,
let's get back in.
Yep.
So, basically, I feel like this song is kind of trying to ride that lo-fi vibe.
Yeah.
With a definite, clear, wintry theme. It's cozy by design, and gave me a hot chocolate craving. Because I'm not a coffee guy.
Yeah. The vibe I got was fairly similar. To me, it felt like they were maybe trying to go for city pop. It does have bits that are sung in Japanese, from what I could gather, or appear to be Japanese.
Like I can tell you that fua fua means fluffy.
Huh.
Oh God.
That explains things that the subtitles, the official subtitles, did not.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just a straight transliteration on my end.
Yeah, that was. Those subtitles were weird.
They were weird. They were helpful, but they were weird.
Yeah. It really feels like it's city pop inspired, but it's not bubbly like most city pop. It's trying to be like chill city pop, I guess. And I agree on the vocals.
It's the city pop's day off.
Pretty much. During winter.
Yes, of course.
But yeah, the vocals, the breathiness, it didn't annoy me as much as it annoyed you, I think. But I did have a bit of a whiplash when she went from singing in English in what was pretty good accent from what I could tell.
Yeah, she was all right.
Just suddenly a couple lines in Japanese and then back to English with the occasional fu in the middle. That kind of threw me off.
What's funny is it's like I don't know about this song because you are dealing with two of the least chill members of the cast.
Oh boy.
Yeah, all right.
I mean, you did mention it was Penguin Logistics, and I was like, what, silently?
Yeah.
Because I know one of them, at least.
Yeah, well, we get
and
another
we'll
one.
talk back to him later.
We will come back to him later. Yeah, no, the angel chick is a crazed gun woman, and the wolf chick is a retired mob hitman.
Well, I get the retired part.
That doesn't really stop her from being the field commander and just raining swords on everything. Like, no, these are not chill people. These are the opposite of chill people. There was a whole event showing just how crazy all four of them were.
Now let me explain to you the concept of Gapmoe.
No, that sounds like if Capcom made a new Mega Man X game, and for the Zero theme they used Soft Rock from the 90s by Eric Clapton.
There you go. That's the best example of this song that I have ever.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's the best example of this song that I could think of. It just feels so inappropriate for these characters. Like they're all chill and cozy, something they have never been in their entire lives.
And even within itself, like the scene that goes.
Oh yeah, let's talk about this solo. What the hell was that?
God, that was awful.
I love that those songs. I just feel like they don't belong.
This is the only bit in my entire notes for the entire concert that are in all caps. Oh god, this synth solo sounds awful.
It is. What in the hell is that synth solo? Is this what being on drugs feels like? That's my notes.
I wouldn't know.
Neither would I. That's a problem.
That would be.
We need more people on drugs on this podcast.
No, we don't need that.
No.
Back up.
In Minecraft.
That would be the best anti-drugs advertisement ever.
Right? Yeah, I was very, very concerned by this. This one just felt wrong. I feel like it was, other than that synth solo, fairly, like, well done, but there's just enough elements of it that just made no sense to me that I just kind of rejected this one outright.
Yeah, like, it genuinely feels like there is this song that already exists in itself, and somebody took it, added his synth on top of it, and released it as his own video.
I like this song. It needs more synths. And I have the perfect synth, I'm sure. No one would question.
More intensifies. And again, I don't dislike the sound at all. I think it's a cool thing for certain atmosphere and certain ambiences. This I did, Chief.
Yeah, that synth solo is like... The synth solo is like if Sakuraba was doing a synth solo, but he had no taste.
That's...
How?
Wow, what did this song ever do to you?
What did I ever do to you?
I enjoyed the rest, but I hated that ending. It was awful to me.
Yeah, that was...
It was the second most awful thing in the concert. We are getting to the most awful thing in a bit.
I already have an idea of what it's going to be. All right, so let's move on to something that I thought was actually pretty good, sort of, which was our first contingency contract lobby theme, and that was Operation Lead Seal. I believe that's CC4. So the contingency contracts are very odd part of Arknights in that they are a recurring event. They are by far and away my least favorite recurring event, but the lobby themes are always these gigantic musical bangers.
Yeah, and that one is extremely pop.
It is
I
extremely
wouldn't
pop.
bat an eye if this aired on the radio, which I think, given the time window in which I listened to the radio, makes it more 2010s pop than modern pop.
They do tend to kind of go back in time. Like there was, like they're not really up on trends, which I think is actually kind of fine because it creates kind of a timelessness to them.
Yeah, and this definitely sent me back to a bit of a car ride with music that feels like... Yeah, no, it feels like it's pretty... the kind of song that could easily get popular.
Yeah.
Removed from its context.
Yeah.
I'm very picky with pop music, so to me this was a fine bit of pop music, just not quite enough to get my full attention, I'd say.
Yeah.
It's well done, it's well made. Just I'm not the target audience.
Yeah, there's a few contingency contract lobbies that really, really stand out, This is not one of them to me. I'm, as of right now, even struggling to remember it, despite knowing the song fairly well. It's just sort of being replaced by a different CC lobby theme, which is a much better pop song, at least in my mind. And we'll get back to that one. I'm actually going to talk about that one later a little bit, but for now... This one, it was sort of there. I did write in my notes, I know this isn't a performance review channel, it's a music review channel, but the singer has, like, 0 stage presence. She just was not commanding attention on this piece.
Yeah, that is something I noticed. It also happens in another track later on to me.
Yeah, which is a shame because some of those cases of stage presence kind of clash with how, like I've said, elaborate and fitting the costumes and makeup and aesthetics are.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like the costumes are wearing the performers.
That's an interesting way to put it. I kind of dig that.
Yes, I am French. How could you tell? Yes, this fashion is not like the model at all.
Oh, I love the fact that the French guy just made fun of the French with a fake French accent as opposed to his real French accent.
Let it be said, let it be on record that the first person on this podcast to do a stereotypical French accent was the actual French guy.
Love it.
I love it.
Love it. Okay. Intermission 3. Emperor is here. Great.
He's in the place.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I love the fact that a literal dragon god, an immortal dragon god, was apparently freaking out that the Emperor is here. That's, like, man, that's character shilling if there wasn't any.
I mean, I checked to make sure of his name before the next performance had it plastered all over, and the wiki entry also had age. Assume that over 3,000 years. Okay, whatever, sure.
Yeah, my exact words for the intermission was, Emperor is a meme that needs to go away.
I'll be honest, at this point I just checked out of the intermissions because they were making no sense to me.
Yeah, you kind of have to know who the characters are for them to make sense, I guess, but...
Well, I didn't realize that I could turn the subtitles on, so I just skipped them.
Ah. Okay, at which point we have Loyal to the Beat, which actually did appear in-game. It was the April Fool's level. Because you got to play as Emperor. And it was weird. Very weird. And let me tell you my first 3 words on my notes, because that's going to explain just everything I feel about this song in 3 words. Whack ass flow. I'm a white guy, I'm calling this whack.
Yeah.
Okay, so never mind the fact that the rapping penguin is already just a meme that needs to go away. The actual guy they had doing the performance wasn't very good.
There's a couple moments, but overall...
Yeah. There's a couple moments. I will say, I do like the beat. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, but it doesn't really help that overall it's really not my favorite brand of rap.
No, it's very inspired by Lil Wayne, and I do not like Lil Wayne at all.
My take on the song, actually, while listening to it, I was reminded of a couple videos from Thought in the Shadows, and the first thing that came to my mind about the dude's flow was that he rapped better than most British rappers I've heard in my life, but that doesn't say much.
That's a low bar. I've heard some good British rappers, like they're out there, but like, yeah, no, that is a low bar.
You chose violence today, Eddie.
A little bit.
I just came back from the gym. I guess I still have that energy in my body.
Let me just start with the song has no hook to speak of.
Yes.
I couldn't even find a chorus. It was literally just going. There was some cool wordplay at times. Not that much, but there was some okay wordplay. Like, clearly a native English speaker wrote this.
Yes. Like the lyrics make sense, at least.
Yeah.
And that's not a guarantee.
I felt like the songwriting wasn't at fault. It just needed a better rapper.
The performer needed to be better. Yeah, I feel like if you had someone who, you know, who had a better flow, who had a better energy, probably could have pulled that one off, but I think this one's really on the back of the performer and it just didn't go.
Yeah, like I said, I tend to like my rap in general when it's angrier and less about boasting, but the boasting makes sense for Emperor, so I can't be too mad about that, but then it's... A lot of other songs feel like songs that happen to be used for a video game. This feels like a video game insert song.
A video game insert... Yeah, fair enough.
Fair.
And I hate to use that as an insult, but...
Unfortunately,
especially in a video game music podcast.
Yeah.
Using that as an insult is weird, but fair in this case.
Yeah, okay.
I'll just, maybe to conclude on my thoughts, I suppose I wanted to like it more, but honestly couldn't.
I think that's fair. I think there's possibly a version of this song that's actually good, and that's another thing we'll talk about later for sure, because there's one song I'm going to be like, interesting. But for this one, it's like, yeah, This was a little off the wall, I felt. This was not there. This didn't connect the way it should have. Next one, on the other hand, Across the Wind, which appears to be the theme song for Chen the Holiday, that one actually did work.
It did.
This was one of the better songs that we've heard in the concert, and the singer was actually quite good. I like her quite a bit.
I love how in tune, in a concert that conveys so much and so seemingly effortlessly what it wants to tell about the characters and the event depicted, this managed to somehow stand out even more in what it's trying to convey.
Yeah.
Because at first it almost looks like, oh yeah, it's going to be a Dead or Alive Extreme Volleyball time. Except you have the sunset tones that match the fact that it's much less extroverted, much more restrained, in a way that makes it hummable. It's in that kind of setting, but in a different situation.
I find it funny that you say it at the start kind of gave you Dead or Alive Extreme Volleyball vibes. Because when the song started, I was kind of bracing for impact, but it turned out better than I expected.
I mean, you basically just described the audience reaction to the event itself, to Solace Holiday, which itself was like, man, we got Chen in a bikini, clearly this is just gonna be, just fluff. And no, it turned out they were hitting the character development hammer as hard as they possibly could with this character.
I will note that as someone who grew up in the early 2000s, when the horns kicked in with the whole electronic aspect around them, I kind of got flashbacks to the song Calabria from 2003.
Oh, interesting.
And incidentally, if you look up that song on YouTube, the video for it is just a still image of a beach. so I guess it fits.
Nice. Yeah, this was definitely one of the better pop tracks in here. I really like the bass line of it. The character of Chen herself was very present in the lyrics. Like, this song was clearly about her. Like, if you're familiar with her story at all, you're like, oh yeah, they're not just posting an image of her and having a semi-related song. This is flat out about her.
Cool.
And it still gets that, like, breezy beach vibe because it is about the DeSolis theme. So, that does make sense.
Yeah, like, that song seems like it knew exactly what it wanted to do and did it
Very competently,
just how
yes.
it wanted to do.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's been a running theme for this concert. Like, even the songs we don't like, we at least got what they were going for, and they definitely landed what they were going for.
Yeah, but what I mean is that this one has the execution of exactly the intent down to a pat, which wasn't necessarily the case for all of the songs, including the previous one.
Yeah. Yeah,
No, I get you.
This one stuck the landing as well as the intent. Yeah. Okay, after this, we had the fourth intermission, which introduced the cyberpunk stuff, and it had, like, the wackiest cast, Thermex, Mizuki, Telopsis. I'm just like, what is going on here? Flamebringer, Texas. I'm like, all right. And it showed off those cyberpunk-style costumes, and I'm like, why can't I have these? Please make them skins. Again! You might notice I say that a lot in this concert.
Yeah, I mean, it shows how strong the concert's aesthetics were.
Yep. After which we head into the first track of the Cyberpunk section, which is Quadrant Breaker. And,
Notes opening for me. Suddenly, all caps. Synths! All caps. Future!
pretty much. My first is great synth bass line. Yeah, we were starting to get into the more electronic section of the game, or not of the game, but of the concert. This is another one of the songs that I believe was written specifically for the concert, though it's about the city of Lungmen, which is one of the, like, main hubs. I wrote down, and this is not going to be a thing that you, not necessarily going to be a thing that you are about, but it feels like a better Swire song than the one we got, which was Randomly. She was one of the characters who was there. Swire, who got the, like, breezy pop song, is the head of Lungmen Police.
Oh yeah, no, that captures that vibe way better.
Yeah, I'm like, why are you of all people in Randomly? The wackiest adventure you've had is just being part of the DeSolis Holiday event as a side character. That's it. You are not a wacky character.
By the way, is that the point where it officially starts to get good? Because I feel like that's the point where it officially starts to get good.
No, it officially started to get good at Undertides. But, or you mean my opinion of the concert? Yeah, no, I only got about a half hour into the concert on last weekend.
I see.
It's been pretty good so far, even if there have been a couple of missteps.
Yeah.
But yeah, Undertides was when the good part started.
All right.
Yeah, this one definitely captures the vibe of a, not quite Hong Kong with serial numbers filed off in Techno Future Land. I feel like they really got that one right.
Yeah. And it could... I feel like I respect it a lot because it could live on the vibes alone.
Mm-hmm.
And it be a good track. But then they add even more on it, and it didn't really need to go quite as hard.
Mm-hmm.
But it does anyway.
Which,
lighting up the city tonight and all of that.
Yeah.
This is one of a couple songs where I have one comment, which it's gonna sound awful, but I mean it with the most respect possible, considering who I'm comparing the singer to. But I noted down that it made me miss Chester Bennington.
Ooh.
Because it had the singer had a similar style,
Yeah.
but it wasn't quite on the same level. So again, it sounds mean, but considering who I'm comparing it to, I mean that with the most respect possible.
That's
he's not a bad singer. He's too close to Chester Bennington, yet not as good. So I couldn't help but compare them in my mind.
And if I'm right, we had this guy back for 2 other songs, if it's the same singer. I don't actually remember who sung this one. I think it's the same guy.
Yeah, he appears twice more. One of those tracks I had no problem. I think they used him to his strengths. But we'll get there when we get there.
We'll get there when we get there.
Track.
Yeah, the vocal is... I put in my notes that the singer's putting up a lot of energy. I wasn't quite sure about the guitarist. I didn't think that was too strong, but the keyboards are also doing a whole lot of work. Yeah, I liked this one a lot. I thought this was a really great intro to the section.
Indeed. For the next one, it's a shame the rain seems to have calmed down a little bit on your end, Eddie.
Right, because we have one of our great umbrella people.
Whose armpits apparently carry good luck.
Oh god, no, let's get this meme out of here. Nami said one thing once and it went viral immediately.
She didn't say just once.
Oh, that's even worse.
I am so glad I'm out of the loop for this one.
Okay, so this is a song about a character named Mizuki, the friendliest, happiest eldritch horror you will ever meet.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. You know how I called Spectre Lovecraftian Madwoman? The specific Lovecraftian horrors that she's fighting, the Seaborn, Mizuki's one of them. He's just, a good guy.
Well, I'm glad, because what I know from that character is the design and that one mean, but we start on the water, then we go on the rain, and there's a real big playfulness to it, which is how it looks like, but there's definitely something wrong underneath and out of sight.
Oh, yeah.
And the song manages to transmit and express that perfectly.
Yeah, like, it's this happy, playful ditty with this underlying tension that kind of just falls off the key a little in places that really works for his, genuinely disturbing nature, despite being, a good kid under most circumstances.
Yes.
We first met him, we talked about the event earlier, we talked about De Solis Holiday. We first met him there, in the fun one. The thing is, the opposing teams kept, the specifically violent opposing teams, kept disappearing around this guy. Because he ate them.
As you do.
As you do.
Yeah, so he's a good kid. Let's pray he stays that way.
Exactly. Congratulations, you've hit the story on the head.
Wonderful.
I was gonna say he's a good kid. Let's pray he's not hungry.
No, he doesn't eat good guys. He doesn't eat people he likes. If you're friendly to him, he's totally chill with you. And that's been a pretty recurring theme every time you see him. But if you make him angry, you will be gone.
People do get hangry.
Yeah. No, he's a total sociopath. He's just a really nice kid. Again, eldritch horror, doesn't quite understand human emotions, etc., etc., but he's a good kid.
Yeah.
He was drawn by former Hololive VTuber and current minor internet celebrity Nami, who has gained quite a following on several different subreddits. So,
indeed. And I have received a plushie of a space bread dog designed by her 2 days ago.
Yeah, you showed it off. That was actually really cute.
Yes.
And I like how this song really fits his character. It's still a mostly positive song because he's still a mostly positive character. I kind of played up how, his dark side is, but no, he's a good guy, just a violent one.
Oh yeah, like I said, I essentially describe the character without knowing him just from the music. That's a good sign.
That's a very good sign. And I will say on a personal level, when you see the tentacles appear, that's when the song like really gets dark, that makes sense.
Yes.
So I'm trying not to talk about the visuals too much for obvious reasons. This is an audio podcast and all, but I do want to point that out, that I feel that the animation was very well done for this one in particular, despite being very simple.
I suppose before that current discussion, I didn't fully integrate that. Oh yeah, that Arknights is a game where most people have animal ears and tails, because that's kind of the aesthetic byline they go through, and this guy is famed after...
He's a jellyfish.
Yes, jellyfish, thank you. The word escaped my mind for a moment because I had the French name for jellyfish stuck in there instead.
Bilingual problems.
Yes. It doesn't help that it's called a Meduse, which is also the name for Medusa, so no, he's not a Medusa.
He is not a Gorgon, no, at all.
Yes.
As an aside, that's a much more badass name for jellyfishes than the Portuguese word for them.
Which is?
Crap, I'm drawing a blank now.
Bilingual problems part 2.
Yeah, because now I have jellyfish in my head.
Oh no.
What have we done?
Agua viva, meaning living water.
Oh. Actually, that's pretty sick.
I kind of like that.
In Iberian Portuguese, they actually do call them medusas, which is exactly what it sounds like. But not here.
I see. And this was the end of the Jellyfish Fact podcast.
I'd say that's the ending of the bilingual problem section of the podcast.
We shall see. So after Y1K, we have the big synth pop triumphant song about Margaret Nurl. One of my favorite characters of the narrative, to be perfectly honest with you. I like her a lot. And one of my lines here is, and I quote, "Better brag song than Emperors."
Yeah, fair.
Fair.
It feels like a movie end credit song that then becomes a kind of a cool EDM track.
It does. I do like this one a lot. I will say my exact words here were, seems inspired by Miley Cyrus's Plastic Hearts years, which is when she got good, so...
Yeah. What I wrote was that there's like a bridge between the end of a movie credit scene and and kind of a break scene in an esports tournament.
Okay.
I'm afraid my notes on this one aren't as cool as you guys, because I just know that it's a nice pop song with cool instrumental sections. The vocals, I could do without. They weren't bad, but they weren't special either.
I thought the vocals were pretty cool. I liked the chorus a lot.
The chorus was cool.
Yeah, I believe my exact... here's the note here. Not something I'd go out of my way to listen to, but I'll jam to it while it's on.
Yes,
Yeah,
which is
fair.
exactly what I think of when I think of an esports tournament break music.
There you go. Yeah,
Like, it sounds like if you listen to it on its own, it feels like the video that has it should also have mentions like YouTube and Twitch stream safe, no copyright strikes.
Oh, God.
That's how much it feels like a stream integrated song.
Oh, God. I almost feel like that's on point, given that, these characters are, this is a pseudo-tournament arc. And I say pseudo because the tournament's going on, but that is not the core of it. No one actually cares who wins the tournament other than, please don't get assassinated while you're trying to do so. This was a tournament arc disguise for what was a deeply political storyline. So the fact that her theme song has that, like, esports tournament vibe is kind of on point.
Yeah. Didn't expect it would be that much, but I'll take it.
Yeah. I didn't even make that connection until you brought that up. That's actually... Okay. That's cool.
I suppose I've watched more StarCraft 2 than you did.
That is true. I will absolutely say that's accurate, because I've watched literally none. So if you've watched any, that is a true statement.
Now I'm
Good
nostalgic.
It also works for league tournaments, I guess, but I have some self-respect, so I don't watch that.
Oh, God. I will say this was one of the few where, other than the motion graphics on the lyrics, the actual artwork in the background was kind of lacking, because it was just her in-game art most of the time. Like, they didn't really add very
more
much.
Focused on the light show going on the stage rather than anything behind the performer.
Yeah.
For this one.
And in that regard, I felt like the singer was, unlike the last one, actually really kind of holding the stage very well.
Yeah, she seemed like a solid performer. Maybe a bit shy due to the setting of the concert, because I couldn't see any audience there. I'm guessing it wasn't an in-person thing.
I don't know.
But yeah, she felt like she could probably have held the stage even better if there were moments of audience interaction and such. But she did well with what we could see, at least.
Yep.
It feels like it was an aesthetic palette cleanser between some very strong looks before and some pretty strong looks after as well.
I think that's a fair way to put it. Do we move on?
Sure.
Okay, and now we have another one of the ones that gave me kind of a headache. Daydream.
Yeah.
This is
That
probably
one's
the one I hate.
disorienting.
Yeah, this is probably the one I hated the most.
So this is the band behind Jiang Hu, and this time the singer is singing in English, which he did not do in Randomly.
And his even higher pitch.
Yeah. About Chen, back before De Solis, and who was one of the most crotchety, untrusting, quasi-antagonist characters in the entire game, and Hoshikuma, a literal SWAT commander. You know, calm.
Yeah, normal.
Yeah.
My notes for this one are just, this sounds like randomly, but worse, especially the vocals.
Yeah, so I'm going to read my notes just verbatim really quick. I'm not sure this singer should be singing in English. This song is weird. This band is really weird. I don't think I dislike the song. I kind of like it. I could live without it. Never mind. This annoys me more and more as it goes on. This band has some cool instrumentals, but I never want to hear this singer again in either language. This is very, very technically funk-inspired, but there's no funk here. It's just weird.
Yeah, it feels to me like a lot of songs try to capture the energies of some past eras of songs. This one feels like it's an actual middle-of-the-shelf late 80s pop song.
Yeah.
With a more modern treatment, and the fact that the Chinese instrumentation is obviously less racist than what we would have done in the West.
That is very accurate. Yeah, the instrumentals are what sell this band.
Yes.
But,
I would like to note, still on the singer, that I have tinnitus, and I could feel it almost hitting right the exact pitch to make my ears hurt with his singing on this song.
Ooh.
It was close.
Oh, no.
It wasn't quite there, but it was close. I don't like this guy.
And now I have a weapon to use against you.
It's not enough. It's not quite enough. But
So close.
the instrumentation was okay. I prefer the instrumentation on the band's previous songs. personally. I think this one was probably this band's worst performance in this concert.
Yeah. Also, the lyrics just don't fit either of the characters portrayed at all. Like, especially at this part of the timeline. This was one of the most tense sequences in the entire game, and I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, no, I can see and feel some of the idea behind a lot of the song's events and characters. This one, it just exists.
It just exists.
I'm guessing the tension comes from having to hear that singer go on and on.
Ouch.
Well, let's move to the next song, because that one has been executed.
Pretty much. Okay, so now we have our second CC lobby, Operation Pine Soot, which was CC7.
Guitars are back on the menu.
Guitars are back on the menu.
I was worried we'd have no metal or rock in this until this song kicked in, and I was so happy.
Yeah, well, that was going to happen. So what we have here is a really decent alternative track. Not my favorite thing, but here's where on a personal level I got mildly annoyed, because we're in what's supposed to be the cyberpunk section, and CC8 is like one of the best, like, I described that song as Sam Smith doing the River City Girls soundtrack. It is really good synth pop. And I'm like, that would have fit a little bit. But it's the same kind of thing. It's the synth pop with that kind of vocals, with the Sam Smith sort of vocals.
I see, so a bit of a selection gripe.
Yeah, and I'm like, I like this song, and I understand why it's here, especially given what the finale will turn out to be, and I believe this was the same singer from Quadrant Breaker?
Yep. I can tell you for a fact, because again, I have the note. I wish it was Chester Bennington.
There we go. Yeah, this guy, clearly it's a case that they just wanted to use this guy as much as they could, which is why that song is in here. But, I feel like there was a bit of a missed opportunity, especially given the cyberpunk aesthetic they had up until this point, even silly enough with Daydream.
Now, I do have a gripe about the song itself, though.
By all means.
And maybe it's just the mix and not the song in its other versions, but it feels like it wants to look more wild than it is. Like, some parts go very structured, and then it goes a little bit high, and then it comes down immediately. And then it goes a little bit, and then it comes down immediately.
Yeah.
And it never really goes as wild as it suggests it can.
Yeah, that's another reason why I kind of wish they didn't have the song in there. As CC lobbies go, this one doesn't quite hit the mark.
Yeah, I noted that I felt like the song was a lot of wasted potential. If the singer were better, he could be a bit more emotional during the more calm parts, let's say.
Yeah, like, he goes high, but he doesn't shout like he should.
Yeah, he does, and even then, he does those screams, but when he's back to singing more melodically, let's say, his singing feels unemotional to me in those bits.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think he was the original singer for this song is part of it.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of shows in the song. This one felt like it's there just because they had the singer on hand and wanted to use him.
I don't blame them, because I think, at least to me, he felt like one of the singers with the stronger stage presence in the concert.
Yeah,
yes, absolutely.
For sure.
It's just a shame about the style of singing, and it kind of doesn't get there.
It's not a bad time when you listen to it. It's just... it could be better. You know it could be better.
Yes. And we will actually be talking about this band and what is better not too far from now.
As the finale.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. But for now, we have Alive Until Sunset.
And I'm just going to say this is by far and away the most improved song between studio and live version. I think we may have an Oblivion situation on our hands. So I don't actually like the
now.
studio version of Alive pretty much at all. And I know I brought this song to the podcast and been like, this is a mistake.
I think I remember listening to some of it, but not the entire thing.
Yeah. Well,
I believe that I've known of it, well, first because of that time when you brought it, but also because I played it in the rhythm game collaboration with the rhythm game Citus 2.
oh, it doesn't
Which is
surprise me
that.
it's on there. This is one of these songs that's really, that's really well... That's one of the songs they really like pushing.
Yes.
So a couple of things right out of the gate. I normally don't like the song. It's too many mixed styles, but this actually brings it together. I noticed that the lead guitar was kind of drawn back a little bit, so it didn't clash as much with the gentish.
Absolutely, it really did. I
Yeah.
did wish it was a bit louder in this mix, honestly.
I actually had a big problem with the lead guitar line in the studio version, so I'm glad they kind of drew it back. I'm also just going to go ahead and say it. The original singer on the studio version was Christina V. Like that Christina V, she is not a metal singer, clearly. This other singer they got really handled the material a lot better.
Good.
Yeah,
Because I had no problems with the vocals at all, that's for sure.
Yeah.
They work. It's kinda because they're so... they are so expressive that the guitar seems a bit understated in comparison.
Which I, for one, think is good. I'm kind of glad that's the case.
Like, I don't want it to be super loud all the time, but I wish that when they kind of alternate, when there's a bit of a call of response, the response was a bit more present.
Yeah. I was able to pay more attention to the call and response because I had the subtitles on, so I could see that the response was happening, but I don't think I even would have noticed it had that not been on for me.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't catch that at all, I don't think. But
What did
it's
you
a neat
catch
song.
about this song then?
Well, I enjoyed the songwriting in general on this one. I thought was even not catching the call and response thing. I enjoyed this. It was really a really neat.
Yeah, this was
neat track.
This was one of the standout songs of the show, especially given that I don't like the studio mix at all very much, and it's amazing what some mixing can do to make it more palatable to me, despite all of the elements I don't like technically being there, with the exception of swapping the singer out.
Mixing's important, folks.
Mixing's important, folks. I've mentioned this before, what I mean by an Oblivion situation. There's a song from Final Fantasy XIV called Oblivion, which people seem to really like, but the in-game version of that song drives me up a wall because the guitar is just awful. It's just a terrible guitar tone, terrible guitar mix. Every time I've heard that same song with a different mix, I've enjoyed it, but the in-game version I haven't. I feel like we may be coming up across a similar situation with this song for me, because I was not expecting to like Alive. I'm just like, well, here we go, time to listen to this crap, and it wasn't crap at all. It was actually really good.
Ironic that it's the same effect given the lyrics of Oblivion, which are the opposite of Alive.
Two sides of the same coin.
Poetic.
Other than the voice cast, when's the crossover? Because it should happen at some point. We need an FF14 Arknights crossover, right?
That would be great.
The ultimate episode for me to not understand a thing going on.
Fair enough.
FF14 Arknights crossover, instrumented by Sakuraba.
Oh, that would be just weird, but I almost feel like I'd love that.
That would be a
Like,
birthday.
that's just so weird.
That would be a birthday present for Rana.
Right?
For this podcast as a whole, except you. I guess we need to add some pipe organs then.
There we go.
I'm okay with folk instruments. Thank you very much. We don't need to drag a whole pipe organ from the church.
Well, how about just a piano? Because that next song has some very good piano in
Have
there.
I told you guys I like the piano? Because I like the piano.
Real quick on Intermission 5, just throwing it out there. So these are the
Oh,
only
right,
batch of
Intermission
skins
5.
we actually did get.
Oh.
Which are Tequila, Mudrock, Reed, and Phantom. Actually, I don't think we got Phantoms. We got the other ones.
They did have the whole movie to sell those skins.
They did, and I'm going to talk about that before I talk about the actual song. Man, I wish Tequila was this good in game. He was awesome throughout, and then Mudrock got her bonk on in full HD 4K, and I'm just like, I'm happy with that. I like her, and I like her bonking things.
As TV tropes would put it, gameplay and story segregation at its best.
Yeah, Tequila is one of the slowest operators in the entire game. Gameplay-wise, his job is to stand there and unleash a skill every 40 seconds. That's it. He can't even block when his skill isn't up.
How fun.
Ooh.
So, that is a big difference compared to the high-flying, acrobatic, and extremely active Tequila we saw in that movie.
Yeah, the guy in that movie was pretty much making James Bond look like a chump.
Which was kind of the point, given that that was the movie that Neon was making, but still, like, interesting. Anyway, I'm just going to get that out of the way now so I can stop talking about it and start talking about the music. The song Phenomenal Agents. Yeah, I like the piano, I like the guitar.
I feel like the guitar, ironically given what I just said about the previous song, they go almost a little bit too hard for this song given the aesthetics they're trying to convey. But at the same time, while they do have that suave, smooth agent attitude and look, they do seem to go pretty punchy when things get down to it, so...
You see, I have... Like, here's the thing. You know what this song reminds me of that's clearly deliberate? Secret Agent Man.
Yeah?
Yeah, so... No, I think the guitars are right on point for exactly this. I don't like the vocals on this very much at all, however. Just gotta be honest about that.
Yeah, I noted down that the accent... this is the one when I mentioned earlier that there was a track on this concert where the accent kind of got to me. This was that track. I felt like the accent made the vocals much less enjoyable on this one because they were very, very rough around the edges. I'm guessing that wasn't the original singer.
This song was one of the 4 that was developed specifically for the concert, so as far as I know, that is the only singer.
Well then, all I can say is that the song on a whole, it sounds really fun. Comes off as a really fun, cool track to me, but the singing, especially with such a strong accent when singing in English, didn't do favors for me.
I just didn't really like the vocal performance. I don't think it has anything to do with his accent. I just didn't think the performance was there. I think that was the weakest part of the song.
A little bit from
I didn't remember there were vocals, so
oof.
That should tell you all you need.
Wow. I will admit, this was the one case where I don't remember the song actually all that well. I was paying way too much attention to the visuals because they had the whole movie there.
That's fair.
And I'm like...
Yeah.
Like, they were even... Like, I know you didn't have the thing, but they were even talking about it in the intermission. Like, all of these characters are kind of... The only one who's kind of playing their usual selves in this movie is Phantom. And everyone else is wildly outside of their comfort zone. Like, you have Mudrock the Femme Fatale, and you have Reed the Angry Enforcer, and Tequila the Action Hero. Like, it's a very different vibe, and they have these characters actually talking about how different the vibe is, and then to see it in action in the movie is just like, this is actually super cool that I can't take my eyes off of it.
Yeah, and it's fun to see them acknowledge it.
Yeah.
The animation on this one was really cool. Kind of makes me wish they would make an anime based on those 4 characters as presented on that animation.
I would watch that. I would absolutely watch that. I would love to see Phenomenal Agents, the anime. I don't think...
I'd watch Kimono Mimi Leverage.
Kimono Mimi Leverage? Oh, that's good. That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
They do have, They have a weirdo anime spin-off, Lee's Detective Agency. Like, outside of the main story anime, they just have this weird, like, little quasi-comedy anime. They could totally do something like that, and I'd be totally down. But they went all out on this particular set, and I was very happy with it. Which has nothing to do with the music, which I barely remember because I was paying too much attention to things that weren't the music. I'm sorry. I'm a bad reviewer, but I'm just like, it's so pretty.
You know, like, you said they were going all out, and all I can think of was how the next and last song went all out.
Yes.
We've already established in another episode that the members of this podcast do not get distracted easily. Ooh, shiny.
Well, unlike the last one, this next one I was all in on the music, and let me tell you, this was the one song they played that I actually sang along with as I listened to it.
Oh yeah.
This is Operation Pyrite.
This was probably my favorite of the concert.
Yeah, like, it's simple. Goldilocks says, the guitars on Alive are a little bit too soft. Goldilocks says, the guitars on Phenomenal Agents are a little bit too hard. And then Goldilocks says, the guitars on this are just right.
Yeah. So this song has a special...
an agent whose code name is Goldilocks?
We have Golden Glow. That's pretty close.
Close enough.
Close enough.
Anyway. So, Operation Pyrite is, like... That was the, like, kind of a big watershed moment in Arknights. Because that was CC1. Not CC0, but that was the first one we had an actual contingency contract lobby theme. And it was this banger. And everyone kind of, like, stood up and went, wait a minute, they're really trying something different here.
Oh, yeah.
And it made everyone take notice. And since then, the contingency contract lobbies have been generally very good.
I want to note that the singer here is, again, the guy I mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Who reminded me of Chester Bennington. And this song is, I think, where they use his strengths and leave away his weaknesses. Because
well, I think this was his song.
Yeah,
I think this was originally him.
What I got from him, and it does sound like him on the album, incidentally, now that you mention it. But what I got, the vibe I got from this singer during the concert was that he's good at the extremes. He's great at screaming, and he's great at the extremely vulnerable, where it's almost a spoken word bit. But he's not particularly good at being melodic. That middle isn't his strong suit, and they were having him sing melodically in other tracks. This song is just those extremes, and he sounds way better because of that.
I don't blame them for making this the finale, although I will say this much, and I meant to say it before we got into it, but I do need to say it. We do have a song that was not present in the video. And I was unable to review that for obvious reasons, and I'll explain why. They brought in a singer called Riona, who did the theme song to the anime. The theme song to the Arknights anime. That did not make the performance footage. This, on the other hand...
Because of copyright issues or something?
I'm sure it's something like that. Also, I believe Riona is a Japanese singer, so I think there might have been some, like... I don't want to say technical, but contract issues there in terms of free broadcasting. Because that's not like an in-house... That isn't like an in-house thing or part of Monster Siren Records, which is the Yostar record label.
Yeah.
So I get the impression that also may have been part of it. I mean, yes, contract issues, like we said, copyright issues, but
honestly, given how much the game contracts other artists to work for them, it's impressive that their repertoire is that large in-house too. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the very least, I know they bring in people, but more often than not, it's through Monster Siren Records. It's like through through them, so they're able to reproduce it at will. I think because of the anime and the distribution, whatever. I think that had to do with not not Studio Trigger, but I forget who the actual studio behind the Arknights anime is, and I think that's through them, which is why that's a problem. Anyway, back to Operation Pyrite. So, we have here one of the most famous songs in Arknights, we have here one of the most well-performed songs in Arknights, and we have here one of the most energetic songs of the entire soundtrack period, all coming together in a, frankly, pitch-perfect finale. Like, I couldn't ask for anything else. This is just great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend who's very much into Linkin Park, and as soon as I finished listening to and watching the concert, I just grabbed it on Spotify, linked it to him, and went, there you go, listen to this. You're gonna like it, I know you will.
Did they?
Yes, I think. I'm not sure. I'm not sure he listened to the full thing. He listened at least to the Discord preview, and he liked that much. But he was at work at the moment. So, But I think he's gonna enjoy it because it has that vibe of Linkin Park, and contrary to the other times I've compared songs in this concert to Linkin Park, I don't feel like anything was like could be better. They are doing it badly or wrong or whatever. No, I think this one was great all around. They grabbed the style and did really well with it without being actual Linkin Park.
Was that one of the songs that aired on multiple concerts?
Yes, Operation Pyrite, Alive, and there was one other.
Yeah, but like it does feels like here's our mainstay. We're going to close to use to close on a high energy and high note,
which is exactly what they did, and it was excellent. Yeah. They hit that nail right on the head. If that's what they were going for, I couldn't ask for anything more as a closer. Operation Pyrite is just a phenomenal song. It made you sit up and take notice in game when it hit, and it made you sit up and take notice here now at the end of this frankly rather wonderful concert, despite a few missteps.
Yeah, it was very diverse, and so even if there are some parts that aren't grabbing you, there's something for everyone.
Yeah. I remind you, this is like everything we were talking about. I know it gets lost in the shuffle a lot. This is a concert for a mobile game that had about 40 different genres of song.
Yeah,
this is such an incredibly diverse soundtrack, an incredibly diverse concert.
Let's just say that for a while, when Galen was first getting into Arknights, there's a reason I was constantly joking that the game sounded and looked much better than it had any right to. Because it does look beautiful and it does sound amazing.
It does.
Like the record level on everyone shows clearly that some people of the helm really like their good music and are using all of that gacha money in order to make some good music happen.
Look, I'm not into gacha, but if they're using the gacha money to make good art, then good on them.
Yeah. They have been really focusing on making something unique and worthwhile that doesn't play like and doesn't act like anything else, and I do respect them a lot for that. And the fact that they are able to put on a concert like this with this level of production value and this level of energy and this level of just, again, how diverse the music is, says an awful lot about where their priorities are, and I think that really kind of shows.
Yeah, I mean, you listen to the last bit of it, and then I had a brief moment when I was like, man, I remember when they started on a Disney song somehow.
Right?
Right. If they did an additional song after this, I wouldn't be surprised if it sounded like black metal.
I mean, that was Alive. That's the most metal track we have in here, was Alive. But honestly, why would you want to play anything after Pyrite? That's a showstopper for a reason, so.
Yeah.
And with that, unless we have more to say on the concert, I think it's about time we talked about now playing. Eddie, you wanted to start.
Help, I'm trapped in a Destiny 2 loot factory.
Oh no.
I'm still on Destiny. I don't have a problem. I can stop whenever I want.
That's a weird fortune cookie.
I can stop whenever I want, I swear. But yeah,
Sure you do.
we're getting to the end of the expansion. I'm hopeful that the next expansion has some cool music because the trailers use a lot of synthwave vibes. So here's hoping. But yeah, that's
Fair
all
enough.
I've been playing because I've been busy as hell in real life.
I've been playing Arknights. We just talked about that. We're not talking about that anymore. I've been playing
Yes.
Yakuza, which we're saving for the other soundtrack or for the other podcast. And I've been playing Power Simulator, which just released a Tomb Raider crossover and has no soundtrack. So that's my now playing. Next.
Well, I thought with one game mainly I'd be a little short, but turns out I have the biggest diversity in now playing.
You have one whole song. We had 0. Congratulations. You win.
I mean, to be fair, it's not just one whole song, it's a whole soundtrack, because Fire Emblem Engage may have some of the worst story there is, but the gameplay is excellent, and the aesthetics, characters are disputable, levels are on point, soundtrack is wonderful.
Yeah, this one song was very, very good.
Yeah, I picked a song in particular which is named Too Strict, which is something that plays first when you are trying to have a showdown inside of a cathedral, no less, thus the pipe organ. You're welcome, Eddie. And it just has this energy driving you forward that kind of reminded me of an FF14 dungeon. On a tactical game with a more tactical pace as a result, of course, but it's really engaging, and that's just the starter version, because like other games in this series since at least Awakening, they have basically overlapping a track and an action version of the track, and that's not the action version, so it goes pretty hard as well.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't get the FF14 dungeon theme off of that, to be perfectly honest with you. I got the, reminds me a bit of the less complicated parts of Tales of Berseria. That's the second time I've made this comment in this episode, and about 2 completely different songs. And I don't know what that means.
Well, here's your 2 nickels.
Thank you. Here's my 2 nickels. Weird that it happened twice. Fair enough. I like the guitars. It's a bit jarring, but I'm kind of down with it. And there's a great breakdown at 1:30. One thing I will say is towards the end of the song, got a little Phantasy Star Online.
Ah.
Yeah, I don't really
Interesting.
have comparison points for this one. I can just say it sounds way more energetic than I would expect from a tactical RPG. But it sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, they do keep a little bit of energy to smoothly transition from the normal version to the action version of the song. And overall, yeah, that game's soundtrack is just wonderful. The original ones play a lot on variation of a main theme, and that's very deliberate because they also do a thing where you have, as part of the system's main characters from every main previous games that take part, and they have a power upgrade once you do a remix of one of the levels from their original games, which is very cool in itself.
Yeah.
Especially if you've played some of those games and like, oh, that's Arena Ferox, but in new shinier graphics, for instance. That's the first one you unlock of that kind. And they also do a remix of a song from that game. And first of all, that means that for every action version of the remixed songs, they get wide with the guitars, which they don't do for the main part of the game, except for the 13th of those trial levels, because as it turns out, the main protagonist of this game is a Fire Emblem main protagonist, and there's one level of that kind for every Fire Emblem protagonist, so they kind of inscribed them in the history by remixing the main theme of the song you're playing to into a nostalgic version of the game that just released, and it's absolute witchcraft. But it somehow managed to invoke nostalgic vibe for a thing you're discovering at the same time.
Wow. That is...
Yeah.
When you say it sounds like absolute witchcraft, the way you describe it sounds like absolute witchcraft, so...
Yeah.
There's a part of me that wishes I was a Fire Emblem fan, but I as much as I would love to experience the soundtrack, the truth is I think it'd probably be best if I didn't play through a whole game just for that.
That's a very fair point. Especially since that game, some of the best gameplay again, but
yeah,
that dialogue, and I know you can be a pretty story-driven guy.
Yeah.
And this game is not for you in that case.
Yeah, you've been mentioning the story a lot and how underwhelming it is. That has me, very trepidatious to think about trying it.
And I mentioned that before we hit the time travel plot.
Oh, good, there's that too.
Honestly,
wonderful.
I kind of want to see Galen play this just so he can riff on the story on stream like Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Oh, that would be torture. I'd watch that.
Well, save up 30,000 points. It's back to 100,000. Save up 100,000 points, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I have played also some Anno 2070, but without paying much attention to... I know 1800, 1 year, but without paying much attention to the soundtrack, because it's a great game to have while you're listening to a podcast.
Haven't played it, I agree,
and
that's how I played it every time.
Yeah, it just works. And then, of course, something we've paid attention to in common, Eddie and me, is not quite a game release or anything like that, but I just wanted to, as the last part of Now Playing, shed a little spotlight on the fact Michiru Yane's got a YouTube channel in which he does things like 22-minute piano renditions of Tragic Prince.
Oh, God. I still need to actually listen to some of those. You've been posting them, and I'm like, I need to find time to listen to these. I don't have time right now. I still have shopping to do, papers to grade, homework to grade, and then, another stream later tonight. And that's just what's today.
Yeah, but to give you a brief idea, around the 18-minute mark in the Tragic Prince rendition in question, she flips a part of her score and accidentally makes it fall, and you cannot hear that because she just continues rocking with one hand while she puts the paper back in place with the other, effortlessly.
Oh my God, this sounds like the best thing on the planet. I really need to check out this YouTube channel of hers.
That woman is a treasure.
Yes.
Damn
Indeed.
right.
Well, can't think of a better note to finish this podcast.
Me neither. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, you can reach out to us via my Twitch channel, via music.arcade.podcast@gmail.com.
Yes.
Had to make sure. And you can check us out via YouTube, Spotify, and wherever you listen to your podcasts.
No episode playlist this time because we just followed a concert along.
Right, so we're probably just going to link the concert itself, which is officially from Hypergriff and therefore probably won't be nuked.
We can hope. We can hope. YouTube is a weird place.
YouTube is a weird place. And with that, thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Goodbye.
See ya.